Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be going over the only ever time England have won a World Cup in rugby. My knowledge of rugby isn't that wide generally, but I did watch the whole of this match to get a good, assessment of how rugby really works and trying to learn stuff as I go along. And England v Australia in the 2003 World Cup was a very good match. And yeah, England got their moment as well, but I'm just going to run through like an analyse of it really and for notes. Yeah, the national anthems were obviously the first things that happen as they always do in rugby, which was good. And I just want to say here, give a big shout out to the crowd. I know it's a World Cup final in any sport, so the atmosphere is going to be electric. But this crowd was very, very good. And England were facing Australia in their own backyard as well at the Australia's Arena in Sydney. So yeah, this was really big, and the crowd were very hostile from the beginning. Really, that was the thing. England really had to overcome the odds, but England also travelled in their numbers, despite having apparent flight issues on the way into Australia. England really did come in their numbers, and the crowd. It was generally a good atmosphere throughout the entire match. Yeah, two very passionate sets of fans, and this was hosted by a South African referee as well. So very, I mean, they're never going to choose an English or Australian referee, but still, a very honest decision there. And Australia certainly started this match much better in the opening 5 minutes. It really looked like it could be a long match for England. Australia took the lead. Austria took the lead early on. It was a try they took the lead with actually, and in the first 5-10 minutes of this match, watching the final, you really felt like Australia, if you were watching it live, were really going to dominate this. And they got a try early on, and like I said, it was too easy of a try as well. England did not do enough to prevent it. And from there, you're kind of thinking, oh, this could be a long day. Australia got the home turf advantage as well, so that always helps. But Australia also hit the post from the following penalty after the try. It was so unlucky. It looked like it was going in, but it did hit the post. That was very unfortunate. And yeah, that was how it went. But England did pull one back, a Johnny Wilkinson penalty to make it 5-3. And that was the turning point, really, of the first half. That moment for England, they got a penalty, and that turned it round for them because the momentum really swung in their favour then. And then there's a couple of injuries in this match as well, like temporary ones. Like Johnny Wilkinson went down, Mortlock for Australia, and then you had Vickery for England as well. So there's a couple of people who went down, but it is rugby. It's a very physical sport, and when the players go down in rugby, they usually get straight back up to their credit. It's a very, no matter what you get hit with, usually just very rare will be a man does have to stay down and go off. Yeah, but England also then took the lead 6-5 thanks to another penalty. Johnny Wilkinson certainly had his shooting boots on in this final. A penalty to make it 6-5. This actually made Johnny Wilkinson the top scorer in the entire tournament as well. So, big moment for him and a great start to the final for him as well. Possession-wise, England were actually 70-30 up on Australia in the first 15 or 20 minutes, which really didn't feel like. After the first 10 minutes, you'd think Australia dominated the majority of the ball, really. But no, that was majority of the rugby ball, that is. No, but actually England, have dominated the possession largely, which is quite surprising, especially with it being like an away match for England. They really did, once they got going and came out, they really did take it to them. Yeah, I mean, England generally were just doing really well after this. Once they took the lead, they just took full control of the match, much to everyone's, It's like the first penalty they got with Wilson was a massive turning point, as I said earlier. England then took a 9-5 lead after that. Another penalty shot from Johnny Wilkinson. So yeah, it was just getting better and better at this point for England. Really, they really had their shooting boots on. Australia then missed a penalty themselves as well after this, and then. Yeah, I mean, Larkham went off for Australia, then came back on, and you could really tell his importance in this match. Every time they went forward with him, you could really tell he was their main man, really, going forward. He went off for a brief spell, and it really seemed to have affected them, to be honest with you. And then, England then got another penalty, which they did miss in the end. Looking at the time in the opposition's area in this match as well, Australia had 69% in England's area and England only had 31%. So, again, a bit of in the opposition area, Australia certainly had more of it, but that was a credit to how well England were actually defending in this final as well. They really did defend well and keep their shape once taking the lead in the first half. Tempers did start to flare a little bit No, I must say, like, once Australia was starting to get a little bit frustrated, you could see tempers were flaring. But as it's going to, it's a final, it's competitive. You're always going to have the odd bit of tempers. And say rugby been a very physical sport as well. It's easy to see. England then scored a try to go 14-5 up, and that's just dreamland in the first half. To be beating a team in their own country 14-5, that really was dreamland for England. It was a really good try as well, a really well worked one. So yeah, that was also very good. It was actually Jason Robinson who scored the try as well, and Robinson, who was a very quick on the left flank, he managed to get in and get the try. Very good try that was. England's first of the match. Johnny Wilkinson then missteps to have another penalty, but he did miss this time. For the first time in the match, he missed. He was 3 out of 3, I believe, or 2, yes, so far. So that was, and then it was half time, and England went into the half time and full control. And really, you were wondering, are Australia going to be able to get back into this match? But in rugby, it only takes a couple of tries, I guess, or one try or 2 tries, and Australia would have been in the lead in this match. So that's kind of how it works in rugby. It can certainly turn quickly. But, yeah, Wilkinson has scored 3 tries to this point. So, he was certainly on form and had his shooting boots on in this match. But, yeah, I mean, at this point there were 7 tries in the previous 4 finals, and we'd already been treated to... we'd already been treated to 3 tries in this one, 2 tries in this one, sorry, as well. So certainly the numbers weren't too bad, but there wasn't really much threats of tries other than the ones that we got, though. The ones that were threatening a try, they just were. We didn't really get many close tries at all in the match, to be honest with you, bar one from England, which was a bad near miss in the opening few minutes. In the second half there were some big collisions, but England started the second half as they ended the first. Good control, never really looked like they were letting Australia back into the game, defending well. It was really hard to see a way back in for Australia. But Australia did then score a penalty to make it 8-14-8, and that was, again, a big moment that you look back on. It was these big moments in finals you've got to look back on. That's a turning point. The turning point in the first half was England's penalty, and in the second half it's Australia's penalty to make it 14-8. And then it was Flatley who got his first conversion of the match, actually. He'd missed a couple before this, but he did get his first here. Australia then made a sub. It was the first sub of the match to freshen things up a little bit. A bit of fresh legs is always handy. And then England were leading on the kicking errors from 3-1. England were leading, so that was another stat as well. England really couldn't afford many errors if they were going to see out the final as well. The scuffling situation at this point was getting worse and worse, but I guess that was Australia's desperation to try and get back into the final because of, obviously, when you're scuffling and, it's a bit of desperation, isn't it, when you're going forward, but in rugby it's a bit different to football. The momentum's not as frequent, it's a bit more stop-start. So you could really start to see the scuffles were getting a lot worse and a lot more heated at this point. Australia then scored another try to make it 14-11, and Australia were now one penalty away from levelling and 1 try away from leading. But this was Australia's second try of the match and the third try of the match overall. But that was a big moment, and it brought Australia so close back into the game as well. So yeah, I mean, massive, really massive moment. So Australia then, were just in touching distance of England. Australia were really coming back into it, but after this, the game kind of went into its shell. England really sat back at this point and weren't letting Australia have anything, so that made it a bit more interesting when the game went into its shell. But Australia then saved a try, very importantly. One of their players got a hand to it to stop England getting a try, which no doubt probably would have killed the game at this point. And then, it was a very tense last 5 minutes at this point. Australia were piling on the pressure. England were defending really well. England made their first sub of the match in the 78th minute, which was quite questionable, really, not to have any fresh legs before that. Of course, a game of rugby is only 80 minutes and not 90, but you do have the clock stop quite regularly as well, not like in football when the time continues, the clock actually stops in rugby. And then Flatley got the penalty kick and he levelled it up at 14-14 to take the game into extra time. Yeah, England heartbreak, but England kind of let Australia back into this game. They were defending well most of the game, but in the end, unfortunately, the errors they made let Australia back into it, giving away a couple of soft penalties. That was what, let Australia back in the game, unfortunately. But, home field advantage for Australia as well. Extra time was looking very difficult for England now. But yeah, it's been a good like 80 minutes of rugby, 14-14, and now what would extra time bring us? Was what everyone was asking at the time. England didn't get any points in the second half. They actually lost the second half 9-0, which is mad to say because it felt like England actually did quite well in the second half. But to lose, 9-0, it's just quite something, and actually not feel like you played that bad really does say how this final really was. Yeah, I mean, 20 minutes extra time is as well. So it's not like football where it's 30, it's 10 minutes each way. And at the start of extra time, Johnny Wilkinson scored a penalty to make it 17-14 to England to make them regain the lead. And that would have been a nerve settler that England absolutely needed, and then they got it at a very important time. England were much better in the first half of extra time because they had to attack now. They couldn't sit back and defend like they were. They had to go at them and attack. And England made another sub as well, and the first half of extra time ended 17-14 to England. They were in control and were 10 minutes away from winning the Rugby World Cup for the first time. But unfortunately, it was always after throwing away in normal time. It was kind of saw it coming maybe in extra time as well. Australia started the second half really well, and they made it 17-17 in the 18th minute of extra time. So it was looking like we were going to go to a sudden death here, but Flatley scored his. Flatley had 4 conversions out of 7 in this match, so he had a pretty solid record overall. That made it 17-17. You'd think and then we're going to go into sudden death. For the first time ever, that would have been in a Rugby World Cup final. However, in the last, thanks to a drop kick from Johnny Williams, that did not happen. And England at Johnny Wilkinson, sorry, not Williams, Johnny Wilkinson, that did not happen, and England won the match 2017. And England won the Rugby World Cup, as much to everyone's delight, who is England. It was crazy. The match took a lot of twists and turns. England made it very hard for themselves. You felt like after the first half, England should have seen this out a lot easier than they did. It was very unfortunate that it had to go this far, but then again, a final that has drama is a lot better than an easy win in a final. And that's what it felt like here when Johnny Wilkinson did, to do score that drop kick at the end. You could really see that was one of the last kicks of the game, and England only had a few seconds to give away a penalty then, but the way this game actually went, you wouldn't have been surprised if they actually did. But they never, and England won after extra time 2017. Absolutely crazy. What a moment for England. What a moment for English rugby. The first World Cup they won, and the only one still to this date 17 years later. But yeah, there was interviews after with Martin Johnson, George Gregan, And to be fair, one thing I will say about rugby is, compared to football, it's a very honest sport. There's not a lot of bitterness after matches, and even the Australian captain, George Gregan, when he came out after the match, was very honest, and he was very much praising England and saying that he's very disappointed, but you've got to give credit to England, and he's proud of his team. It's a very honest sport, rugby. I feel like fans are a lot more friendly, and and the players generally, I know during the game you don't see it, but after games and the celebrations after, there was no bitterness and stuff like that. It's very handshakes and very, there's very friendly atmospheres overall. Even when they were receiving the losers medals, Australia, of course, there was no smiles or anything, but it was disappointment, but it was more in an honest way, really. But this was only the second Rugby World Cup final decided in extra time, but it was only the 5th one to ever take place as well. And Australia had beaten England in the final in 1991 as well, so there was a bit of history coming into this match. And the other bit of history was England were the last team to beat Australia in the Rugby World Cup back in 1995 as well. So, so all these facts added into it, but England did get their win, and England lifting the trophy was a massive moment. You could really see how much it meant to the players. Excellent. I might have called Johnny Wilkinson Johnny Williams a couple of times in this video. I'm sorry if I did. I did mean to say Johnny Wilkinson. But this was a good Rugby World Cup final. It was, always going to live in the England memories. The first one they ever won, the only one to this date. You don't get many opportunities like this as well. But it was a good match to watch, and it was a good match trying it into rugby, really. But hopefully England going forward will win another one of these in the near future. But yeah, huge moment though for England, and yeah, it was always this was great to witness. In Australia's backyard beating them, it was just a brilliant moment. So yeah, and that's my video. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe still. And I'll be back with more football, some more content on sport. I'm actually going to be doing a WWE live commentary this Sunday, as I've already mentioned, on Money in the Bank pay-per-view. and also going to try and come up with more sports. I've now covered more variety of sports I'm going on, which I'm really enjoying watching more and more sports as well. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.